When you think of Nashville, what do you picture? Cowboy boots, neon lights, maybe a guy with a guitar singing about heartbreak in a smoky bar. Well, you wouldn't be wrong, but there's way more to Nashville than just country music and cowboy hats. The city has stories that stretch back thousands of years. It's one of the fastest growing cities in America, and it's literally built on music. And maybe just a little bit of barbecue sauce. Welcome to Cities Explained. My name is Anton, and my goal is to teach you about an interesting new place around the world with every new episode. So tune your guitar, grab a hot chicken sandwich, and let's find out what makes Nashville, Tennessee such a legendary city. So to start things off, let's cover some of the basics. Nashville is the capital and largest city of Tennessee, sitting right in the middle of the state, in an area known as Middle Tennessee. Now, how they came up with that name still remains a mystery, but regardless, in addition to being the state capital, Nashville is also the seat of Davidson County, which means it's basically the big boss of local government. As of 2026, about 700,000 people call Nashville home, and when you count in the surrounding suburbs, that number jumps up to over 2.15 million, which makes the Nashville metro area the 35th largest in the entire United States. And here's the wild part, Nashville isn't slowing down. It's one of the fastest growing cities in the country, with people moving here for the music, the jobs, and of course, that southern charm. The city itself sits in the Nashville Basin, along the winding Cumberland River, which snakes through the city like a lazy blue ribbon. Additionally, Nashville is located right at the edge of the Highland Rim region of hilly terrain to the west, thanks to which the city itself hosts some pretty steep hills, like the Capitol Hill, appropriately where the Tennessee state capitol sits. Altogether, Nashville covers about 528 square miles, and around 5% of that is water, mostly from the river and the nearby lakes. So yes, there's plenty of room for both skyscrapers and fishing trips. But now that we know what and where the city is, next we need to know why Nashville is. So next I'll give you a super quick rundown of the city's history, and because I have a habit of explaining things a bit too pedantically, I'll limit myself to 2.5 minutes. Okay, so long before country stars and cowboy hats, Nashville's story began with the Native Americans who moved here more than 13,000 years ago during the Paleo-Indian period. Later the area became home to the Middle Cumberland Mississippian people who built villages, temples, earth mounds, and thriving communities here for centuries before European colonization. The first Europeans to arrive though were French fur traders like Martin Chartier, who built a trading post in 1689 along the Cumberland River. Then a century and one butt kicking to the British later, American settlers built a small wooden fort here in 1779 called Fort Nashboro, named after the Revolutionary War hero Francis Nash, and that little fort would quickly grow up to a sizable town, which they renamed to Nashville. And when Tennessee became a state in 1796, Nashville was already booming. In 1800, the town had a massive population of 345, although sadly 136 of them were slaves. From here, the city's population began to grow rapidly, and when it was chosen to become the permanent state capital in 1843, it had reached a population of over 7,000, which doesn't sound like a lot, but that already made it the 59th biggest city in the country. Additionally, the city had also become one of the wealthiest cities in the South thanks to its iron production. During the Civil War, Nashville was a key city for both the Union and Confederate armies because of its location and railroads, and it was actually the first southern state capital to be captured by Union forces. After the war, however, Nashville quickly rebuilt itself into an important trade center in the South, with its population having grown tenfold by the beginning of the Second World War. But then starting in the 1940s and 50s, Nashville started to attract waves of country musicians, many of whom were from Tennessee, for a large part thanks to the Grand Ole Opry, a country music themed radio show. And by the 1970s, country music had become a major industry in the city, while people all over the country had come to know Nashville by its nickname, the Music City. And that brings us to today, where Nashville is one of the biggest and most well-known cities in America, with a population of around 2.2 million people. But who are these people? Well, according to the 2020 census, about 53% of Nashvillians are non-Hispanic whites, while the second largest group are the Black community at around 24%. Hispanic and Latino people make up the third largest group at 14%. Meanwhile, the remaining 9% is made up of mostly Asian, mixed, and Native American communities. Thanks to the city's relatively low cost of living, Nashville has also become popular with immigrants, with immigration having played a major role in Nashville's growth in recent decades. Between 1990 and 2000, for example, the city's foreign-born population more than tripled, and today immigrants make up roughly 15% of the city's residents. Now, I've recently come to learn how important likes on YouTube are. They can really make or break a video. So if you've enjoyed this so far, I'd really appreciate it if you considered clicking the like button. It would really help out the channel a ton. Now, economics-wise, the median household income in Nashville is around $75,000, or roughly the same as the national median. However, around 14% of the population is reported to live below the poverty line, which, on the other hand, is around the average for similar-sized cities in the US. Nashville is also quite religious, as around 60% of Nashvillians claim religious affiliation, most of whom identify as Christian, and especially Baptist. And that's not surprising, the city is comfortably within the region referred to as the Bible Belt after all. However, compared to the rest of the state, where over 80% of the population identify as Christian, Nashville is actually quite irreligious in comparison. Politically, Nashville also leans heavily Democrat, while the rest of the state, except for Memphis, tends to be heavily Republican dominated. So yeah, that's what the people of Nashville are like. But now, let's talk about money, because believe it or not, the economy of Nashville doesn't just consist of guitars and fried chicken. In 2023, the Nashville metro area had a GDP of over $200 billion, putting it at 27th in the US, just below Orlando, Florida. The biggest industry in the city is actually healthcare, as Nashville is home to more than 300 healthcare companies, including HCA Healthcare, the world's largest private hospital operator. Altogether, this industry pumps more than $30 billion into the city's economy every year and provides the citizens with around 200,000 jobs. Other major industries in Nashville include finance, insurance, and publishing, and especially religious publishing. In fact, the city is home to the publisher Thomas Nelson, which is one of the world's largest producers of Bibles. But of course, the heartbeat of the city is still music, as the so-called home of country music is also home to the country music branches of the big three record labels, Sony, Universal, and Warner, plus tons of independent studios. The music industry brings in about $10 billion a year, or about a third of the total brought in by the city's healthcare industry, and supports roughly 56,000 jobs. More recently, however, technology and real estate have begun to take a bigger portion of Nashville's economy, with startups and developments popping up all around the city. Additionally, 4 Fortune 500 companies are headquartered in the Nashville metro area, while many more have regional offices here as well. So, in short, Nashville's got an interesting and multi-dimensional economy, even if the Nashville hot chicken is objectively their most important, and dare I say, delicious export. But speaking of spicy chicken, let's talk about the city's culture and cuisine. Now, unless you haven't been paying any attention, or more accurately, if you've been doing the dishes while this has been playing in the background, yes, I'm talking to you, Jacob. The city's nickname, Music City, pretty much says it all. From country to rock to pop, and even rap and Christian music, Nashville is where many aspiring artists come to chase their dreams. And additionally, every June, the CMA Music Festival, or the CMA Fest, brings thousands of country music fans to the city, turning Nashville into a Disneyland for country music. But the city doesn't stop at music, as there's also an amazing theater scene, with community and professional productions happening year-round. So Nashville definitely doesn't have a shortage of a wide array of live performances, but more importantly, the city definitely doesn't have a shortage of great foods to choose from. Whether it's more important or not is a subjective statement, but I am quite hungry right now, so I am a bit biased. If you visit Nashville and don't try the city's famous hot chicken, have you really been to Nashville? I have never been to Nashville, and yet I have still tried it, although I'm sure it's much better in Nashville. But the city is also famous for hot fish, barbecue, and something called a meat and three, which is a very popular meal combo in southern cuisine, consisting of a meat main dish and 3 side dishes. Now, along with music and food, sports also play a major part in the city's culture, and Nashville is currently home to 4 professional sports teams, with 3 of them playing at the highest professional level of their respective sports. There's the Tennessee Titans of the National Football League, who relocated to Nashville from Houston in 1998 and play their home games at the 69,000-seat Nissan Stadium. As of 2026, the Titans have made it to 1 Super Bowl, Super Bowl 34 in 1999. However, they lost that one to the St. Louis Rams. There's also the Nashville Predators of the National Hockey League, who were also established in the city in 1998, although as an expansion team. They play their home games at the 17,000-seat Bridgestone Arena and have also made it to the finals once, where they also lost, except to Pittsburgh this time. And they also happen to be my favorite NHL team. Now, I have never been to Nashville, but when I was a kid, their goalie, Pekka Rinne, was my mom's cousin's husband, so I practically had no choice in the matter. If you've got an even stupider story for why you support whatever team you support, please share it in the comments. Anyway, the last major major league team in Nashville is Nashville SC of Major League Soccer, who is also the latest professional sports team to appear in Nashville, having been founded in 2016. They play their home matches at the 30,000-seat Geodis Park, and unlike the other two, haven't yet featured in the championship game of its league. Although, to be fair, the club wouldn't be old enough to even have a Facebook account yet, but they have won one US Open Cup in 2025. The city's fourth professional team is Nashville Sounds, who played minor league baseball in the city since 1978, making it the oldest professional team in Nashville. But besides professional sports, Nashvillians are also huge fans of college sports, with the city hosting a total of 4 collegiate Division I athletic programs, with the Vanderbilt Commodores being the most popular one. The city also hosts some teams in amateur leagues, like in the United States Australian Football League. And lastly, the metropolitan area is home to 2 famous racetracks, the Fairground Speedway and the Nashville Super Speedway, the latter of which regularly hosts NASCAR races. But now that we know what Nashville is, where Nashville is, why Nashville is, who Nashville is, the sentence is starting to make less and less sense as I go on, how much money Nashville makes, and what the city's culture is like, what does the city actually look like. So get your fanny packs, socks and sandals, and those weird flippable sunglasses, because next we're gonna go sightseeing. And just like with most other cities, the city center seems like a fitting place to start. Now, Nashville's downtown is one of the liveliest in the whole region, with lights, live music, and the smell of barbecue filling the air. Broadway and 2nd Avenue are the heart of the action, filled with neon lights, cowboy hats everywhere, people line dancing in the street, and country music pouring out of its famous honky-tonk bars. Admittedly, it's a lot more popular with tourists than actual residents, but it's still one of the must-see places in Nashville. A few blocks north though, you'll find the state capitol, the Tennessee State Museum, and the Bicentennial Mall, if history and politics are more up your alley. And if so, you should also visit the replica of Fort Nashboro, the ruins of the Civil War-era Fort Negley, or Andrew Jackson's Hermitage, the former house of the 7th President of the United States, which is now a museum. How about something more chill? Well, you should check out Centennial Park, home to Nashville's very own Parthenon, a full-size replica of the ancient Greek temple. Now, this might seem like a pretty weird thing to have, although it's far from being the weirdest thing found in an American city, but it was actually built in 1897 as a nod to the city's nickname of the Athens of the South, due to its abundance of universities. Now, this is despite the fact that there is a city called Athens in the South, along with all the other ones, but I digress. For the music fan, Nashville is also a gold mine, with the Country Music Hall of Fame, the Musicians Hall of Fame, the Grand Ole Opry, obviously all the honky-tonks and other live music venues, and RCA Studio B, where Elvis Presley recorded some of his biggest hits. Now, maybe this is a bit of an odd inclusion, but walking around the city, you'll also see the AT&T building, which is a pretty noticeable landmark in the city's skyline. A fun fact about this tower, which, mind you, is just a normal office building, is that it's referred to as the Batman building by the locals. Now, this is because the building's silhouette kinda looks like the famous DC Comics character Sonic the Hedgehog, and those are some of the places that you should definitely go and see the next time you're in Nashville. Now, chances are that if you've made it this far into the video, you'll probably also enjoy this video about Seattle, Washington. Go give it a watch. Or don't. Do whatever you want. I'm gonna go have one of those hot chicken sandwiches now.